Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Leala.
And my name is Beau.
Hi Beau.
How are you doing
I'm
today?
good.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
We've been so busy lately we haven't had a chance to talk. How's the doves?
So welcome back. On today's episode we're going to discuss Queendom Season 2 Episode 4 and everything that happened in this episode. If you enjoy this discussion, please subscribe so that you can be updated every week for our recaps of Queendom.
Yeah.
And please leave us a comment with your thoughts about the ranking for this episode. I would love to hear.
Yep.
Okay. Ready to begin?
Yeah.
Let's go. So today we're going to discuss the round 2 final 3 performances, the live ranking, or ranking as it is right now,
Yeah.
voting, and then we don't know much about next round, but just a little bit about that, speculation, and then we have a Reddit discussion of the day. These have been really fun to do.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about evil editing.
Free content, thanks guys. You can write my lines for me.
So look forward to that towards the end of the episode.
Yeah. It'd be good.
Okay, let's go. So we started out this week with the second half of the cover round performances. We started with the VIVIZ doing WJSN's song Unnatural.
Yeah.
Really, really unnatural.
Good song. Again, though, they're much more popular, I think, in Korea. So if you're new to K-pop relatively, like I am, I wasn't as familiar with Cosmic Girls WJSN. That's Cosmic Girls, right? Yeah. So, but now that I've hearing their songs, I've heard them before. We'll watch like videos of like.
I didn't know Unnatural much, but we've listened to it a few times since, and it's a really good song. And their remix of it, their change was really good too.
Yeah, it's a mature song, but they kind of gave it a little bit of a wink with the, the cabaret feel.
Yeah, they did like a salsa Spanish Latin vibes thing with the cabaret outfits, and then.
K-pop loves to do that. Just take a flavor of something and just throw it all in. And it's like, well, these are all different things.
Sometimes that's okay, and sometimes it's not.
It's a little French, and it's a little this, and it's like, okay,
Yeah. I thought the remix of the song was really good. I thought the theme was great. I thought the styling was superior, probably the best of this whole round. The colors, the stage, the props, the way they used the stage. Like, everything was really, really good.
Yeah, as you watch it, though, like, they did the thing where they wiped away the flowers off of the mirror table or the whatever, and you're going, oh, that's just a clever little thing. Gimmick number 1.
Gimmicks.
And by the gimmicks are not bad.
We're going to be talking a lot about gimmicks today.
In toys and toy models that I collect and stuff like that, a gimmick refers to, like, little tricks they do, like a little gun pops out. It's like a little thing.
Yeah.
It's not gimmicky, it's just called a gimmick. But,
I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah, that's what you'd call it, a little flare or something. And so they look in that mirror and you're like, that's cool. But then you realize when you watch it in the full cam, the cameraman is blocking a lot of that. Somebody brought up on the subreddit that on some of the performances, they'll actually put what you're seeing through the camera on the big screen up top.
They don't for this.
Not on this, but on some of them they do. I think WGSN, the first one, did it with I can't remember.
I think this theater doesn't really have space for that. So the audience that is watching is just seeing what's happening in front of them.
The back of a camera guy.
And so for small tricks like that, where they're looking down into this mirror, the people in the live audience probably had no idea what was going on there.
Right, but my point is at first you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of bad. But the voting audience, the outside of us, in other words, who's not Korean, probably count for the most. I bet in the end it is going to make the biggest difference. So I'm betting that they're doing a combination of live audience thrills and our thrills. So I don't blame them.
I thought it was super well designed. The choreography was nice. They tend to have a style of dancing that I think has come with them from G-Friend, from what I understand. That's more delicate,
soft.
More graceful, more soft. They're not, air quotes, powerful dancers. So they tend to do things in a slightly more reserved way than when you see someone talk about what is a good dancer.
Yeah.
You think of like how Luna does or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're a bit different there. So like I think it makes them visually seem a little less, air quotes, powerful than the other teams.
Right, but
and one thing I noted that just kind of stood out that kind of demonstrates that when you watch them next to their backup dancers, the backup dancers are often going quite a bit harder than they are.
Because they're backup dancers.
And they're doing it more in a graceful, understated way. And this isn't like a good or bad. Those are just stylistic differences.
It can work, yeah.
And I like their style of being more graceful and more subdued and things like that. And just more pretty. But I think that stylistic difference is a little bit noticeable here and there.
Yeah, I think K-pop right now you can feel it when you start to get involved in fandoms and stuff. That's kind of going through a war between the hard hitting, the nuke stuff, girl crush stuff, and the old school, which is where the only place in the world you really get this kind of stuff is in K-pop, where it's more pretty and floral and stuff. Would that stuff fly over here? Who knows? It could become the hottest thing. Well, I don't know. There's some of it already. You'll see it, but I think they did good. She had a Umji? No, who?
Una?
Yeah, Una. Had to do the kick.
Yeah.
And she had to get grabbed by the guy dancer. He could easily flip her around. That wasn't the problem. She was just underconfident, and she couldn't do this bicycle kick. And at one point, because she's so cute and cries like immediately, that at one point I was kind of like, I wanted to shake her a bit and be like, look, you've got to own this. You've got to think like Hyolyn, whereas don't be embarrassed and stuff like that, because she's a little bit worried about that. But
they don't tend to do like super athletic moves like that.
Yeah, but she could totally pull it off.
She was out of her element.
She was just underconfident.
And I think that we just saw the performance first and then watched the episode where they show practice. And I think in practice she sometimes did it better than she did in the final.
Yeah, she
got the kick a little bit higher. In the end, it was no big deal. Like, it was totally fine.
But I think if it would have been more impactful if she had sold it more. It's a weird move that she's doing. She's kind of
very subtle.
Yeah, she's kind of falling backwards during the move. It's got to be a weird, especially she's not used to doing it. But her feeling sorry for herself, I'm like, you've been in a very successful group for many years. You've been dancing and singing.
You're great.
Well, it's not only that, but you need to challenge yourself a bit. Her high notes were a bit sour.
Not really. I thought they sounded good.
No, I thought they sounded good, but she has a very distinctive. It's not super high and it's not super low. Like, them as three really, really work. Bop Bop was great because their harmonies work together. You have Simbi, who's on the lower register, Umji's on the higher, in the mid, and then and they even their looks and everything. It's a good trio. But with the trio, it's almost like it would almost be better to be a soloist, because with a trio, it's not quite spread out at some point. So it's got to be a difficult thing to plan for. You can't just throw in backup dancers and have them fill in. But I like that they used the separate parts of the stage, which everybody's using now. The live crowd gets kind of surprised by it. You can say, she's over here, What I watch for is when you watch the full cam, meaning a camera that's just watching the stage and might move a little bit, the pan a little bit. It doesn't zoom in. It doesn't do reaction shots or anything. And we'll talk about Kepler in a minute, is you can't have your group looking like they're going to they're running to the side of the stage and hitting their spot and then just standing there waiting for their turn. And
we'll get to that.
Yeah, and so VIVIZ didn't do a lot of that. And
it flowed really well.
It's harder to keep that flowing with three people. So I thought they did great. The crying though, it's adorable as hell. But if you kids out there watch this Seinfeld episode where he dates a woman who cries at the drop of a hat. Literally, she drops her hot dog. She's like, my hot dog. And that's the whole thing. He's getting annoyed by her just crying all the time. And then some guy comes up and says, oh, by the way, you got a call. Your grandmother died. I'm sorry to tell you here at this thing. And she's like, oh, okay, whatever. It's not bothered by that at all. But if she drops a hot dog, she starts crying. And I'm like, she cries all the time. But I appreciate people who can cry. She's the most adorable person there.
Okay.
They sounded great. Again, though, we'll put our predictions. I still think VIVIZ will win because of international votes. But that's not why I picked them. I picked them from the beginning because I just think they represent where K-pop's going a bit. It's it's taking a florally group and kind of making them more modern. I think they'll end up doing well in votes and stuff. And they're midsection right now. So yeah, good song though. Yeah.
And after that we had
Pool Party.
Pool Party. Kepler with Pool Party / Rollin' remix from Brave Girls. Yes. So much went on.
Yeah, so much went before on. You click off because you think we're going to hate on Kepler, we're absolutely not.
No, we love Kepler.
And I didn't hate on Kepler last week either. Last time, the first performance, I got mad at the production crew, and it was interesting to see people online and on the subreddit stuff like that, feeling the same way. They're
Yeah.
not mad at the ladies. All dance amazing. They're
So
great.
before we get into the actual performance, I wanted to talk about like the behind the scenes like build up to the performance.
Yeah, which was fun.
Often they show like rehearsals or how they came up with the theme. For this, it was really, really cute, actually.
Oh, it was adorable.
We watched it again today, and I was just like, it was really good. They were trying to pick the song, so they looked through all the lyrics of different songs to find one that would work for them. Because a lot of Brave Girls songs are more mature in vibe and talking about, like...
semi-sexy-ish and stuff, you know.
Relationships or love.
It reminded me a bit of
falling out
Sistar,
love,
some of it,
and,
too. Like,
you know, like, it's just like, like
they
sad
talk about
songs,
getting
they
drunk,
talk about
too.
getting drunk and, like, things like that. So
Which I'm all
as
for.
they're going through those, it was really funny. And then trying to explain to Hikaru what the phrase for burnout in a relationship meant, and she was just like,
for
it
those,
did not click.
for those who are in listening
Precious
and might
Bean.
not know, they were talking about things just cooled off. You're just surviving in this.
They called it burnout.
Burnout, and it's just you're just kind of miserable together. Luckily me and Leela don't have it. We're very, very happy together. But what I thought was cute about it is, at first I thought Hikaru was confused about the word. When else
It
would
was a
she
little
hear
bit of that too.
And then they started explaining. She's like, but they just need to talk, like a 5-year-old would say. And you realize, and when you watch her on the stage too, how young Hikaru is. She is tiny and young. She's like a kid, and it's
like,
funny
it doesn't
because
make sense. Why wouldn't you just talk about how you feel? And it's like, you're right, Hikaru. Exactly. Always hold yourself to that standard.
Well, Youngun,
talk about your feelings.
I like how Youngun
with
had
your
to give her the birds and the
relationship.
bees talk, and I'm like, you have
not
two.
even that.
By the way, you have two leaders, and
It was
Michiro.
really funny.
It could be editing, but Michiro she might need to step. You might need to step up a bit when Eugen was having a hard time. She's a co-leader. Maybe she did. We didn't see it.
Right.
But I thought, Eugen, go. She's asking you, but mommy, the boy doesn't kiss the girl anymore. And it's like, okay, you got to have. Instead, they send another kid, Youngun.
I know.
It was cute.
And the other
It's
moment in that I loved was when they were Eugen and was it Michiro? They were acting it out. She was like driving a car.
Yeah.
And like, like
No, it was Diana.
Like she was frustrated.
Yeah.
Diane, like she was frustrated.
Diane was like,
the boyfriend
honey, how was your day today? Kind of thing.
Was being slightly rude, and just the laser beams that came from Shouting's eyes, and she was like, ugh, and like I hate you. And I was like, that triggered something. She's been there before.
Well, or she doesn't that, or she felt defensive over her friend. I thought it was cute.
That was like an excellent moment. But anyway, okay, now we can move into the
You're
performance.
right, but it was also cute because it showed Hikaru's working out the rap, and she mentions how her lines are always so short.
And
Personally,
we feel the same.
Personally, I don't think anybody would have mattered or cared because Diana's already had her rap in the first performance. They should have let Hikaru do the entire rap.
Yeah.
And she would have owned it. She when they turn to it's your turn in a lot of these performances, they do have a live mic. They have a backing track. Everybody uses one, but they have a live mic. And there's a moment a lot of times where they keep them turned down so they're not all over the mic the whole time. There'll be like a little bit of a lag, and sometimes the vocals take a second. The mic levels it happens, right? And by the time they got that straightened with Hikaru, her rap was almost a third of the way over. It was just kind of like,
we'll get to that. So like the overall for this performance and everything, we already knew that some things had gone wrong because they just showed a bit of it in the previews and everything. So you kind of went into it expecting disaster instead of being able to just enjoy it the first time you watched it. But again, the first time I watched it, I didn't notice a lot of the little things that happened and that went wrong. But we've watched it a lot of times now, and it was very fun. I thought the idea of the theme was good. The song choice was good. They performed it well. I thought Chaehyun's small vocal part, every time she hits it, like that part, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, she always
it really sounds
she has
beautiful.
A good ear.
She just has it has a beautiful flair to the way that she did that one part, and
yeah.
it really, like, every time I hear it, I'm like, wow, she's good.
Well, she was the one who caught that Roland goes over this song.
Yeah,
but if you notice in the part where they show that, she sings it in harmony. So she's automatic.
Yeah,
harmony
is
really hard to hear.
She's the brains. Everyone listen to Chaehyun, please.
She's
the brains.
She was asking for the spa day too, and they didn't listen to her then either.
I know they didn't listen. So that's like the overall. I would say that my bias, Yeso, slayed.
Yeah, Yeso is always good. And Mashiro and her were that little subunit was adorable.
Yeah, the two of them together was great.
They're the same height, and they're both cute, but they're really sharp dancers. But you forget Mashiro, when she came into GP 999, she danced with I forget her name, but she's gone on to another production company, and they had this kind of powerful-ish dance, and they looked great. Mashiro's a really good dancer.
Yeah, they were good together.
Okay, but we've got to talk about the gimmicks in this. What I've done, and when we watched it the first Friday night, it comes out on Thursday early morning. You can watch it live here in Central Time, Texas, USA. I don't know, let that apply to your time on YouTube. I don't want to get up that early, so we watch it.
Right.
You have to wait till Friday morning, so we watch it Friday morning a little bit, Friday night, and then maybe another, and we take notes. So there were gimmicks in all these songs, but with Kepler, I knew that the problem was they were trying to juggle while riding a bicycle. I thought it was. I think it's one of the worst ways to do this kind of a show, and the proof is obviously in the pudding with Hyolyn, and we'll talk about her in a second. But I counted up here. What I did is, and I remember doing this when we were watching it for the first time Friday night. I said, I'm going to put down 17 check marks. I think they're going to have 17 gimmicks.
No, it was up. Like when you watch it for the first time, you're like, that was really fun, but there was so much going on, and you can't quite put your finger on like what's going on, or like what went wrong, or like why were they were really upset at the end, and clearly Eugen was too.
Yeah, I didn't fall for that because that happened to WSN. I know that you can get off the stage and think stuff went wrong and it went fine, so I thought maybe it would actually be the opposite. But when you look back at it and you watch like the fan cam versions or the full stage version, you notice that there's just so much time in this short 3-minute song that's spent going from place to place, setting up one gimmick, setting up the next gimmick, moving on to the next trick, and then there's just so much of Here's what I thought, and when I thought this is exactly what it was. I was trying to figure out, what does this feel like to me? Every idol, they go on a show, a variety show, a group, and they say, all right, well, now you got to win the prize, which is usually snacks or something. And what we're going to do is you're going to pick 5 of you, go in a row. One of you is going to flip a cup, and one of you is going to throw a milk into a trash can, and they fail the first or second time. And you're like, oh, they're never going to do it. And then they finally make the entire run in a minute and a half. And I felt like what we were watching was a run through one of those games. One more time, it would have been perfect. But they were on like their third or fourth try. Right. So just to break it down real quick, because this is driving me crazy. You had Yeso comes out, no gimmicks yet. Well, you can see the dress is obviously a second, but it's cute. So she has to time walking by the magic flowers.
Yes.
Okay. Next, she has to go in the box and costume change, meaning you can actually see the backup dancer grab her dress and it just comes off the front, which was cute. She's adorable.
That was executed well.
Yeah. Then she has to go and do her and Mashiro subgroup dance, which is not really a gimmick, but it's another placement.
There's another prop. Also gimmick / prop. The mirror, the box that spun. So next.
Yeso and Mashiro dance. Not really a gimmick, but a placement thing. Next, the wind blows them at some point. Well, they get as a group, there's a wind blowing part. I'm not sure. I think that's after Yeso and her dance, I believe. Now, granted, I had a couple bottles of wine by the time I was writing this, so I might be out of order. The wind blows them also have to act blown, which I didn't quite get. I think it was supposed to be like spring and summer themes or something, like it's changing of the seasons, but it was cute. Then Hikaru has to get on the floor and move while she's doing her rap, looking cool, which is fine. The floor is never a good part, though.
This is the tiny little pet peeve with me, and this happens often in Kepler's choreography normally. Why is Hikaru always on the ground?
On the ground
during her rap parts.
Like sexy-ish?
But she's always sitting. 1, she's a huge power dancer.
Yeah.
2, she's tiny. So when she sits, her profile on stage is even smaller. And so there's not a dynamic feel to when she's doing her rap parts because she's sitting. They do this in Warada. Yeah. They did it here. And it was just like, she shouldn't have been sitting during her part. Like, she should have been standing and taking up space and presence with her voice, because everyone loves her. And
she's very emotive.
Side note, WGSN were all like Hikaru fans. They were like,
yeah,
Hikaru.
Everybody's Hikaru.
It was so cute.
I think Hikaru's, you've never seen an idol like
I was
her,
like,
not for a while.
Stop making her sit in her part.
Well, and she was sitting in front of her was coral reef stuff, and I'm like, are you swimming?
She was also sitting, and then there was like something in front of her too. So just the way it looked on the stage was just like you couldn't hardly see them, you know.
Right.
But in the camera, of course, you could. But that still just kind of bothers me because you can't express the lyrics. You can't see me that I'm moving right now. Whenever you're sitting down the ground.
So anyway, from Hikaru on the floor with Yeso and whoever, I can't remember. Yeso has to reach down and grab
a cell phone.
Grab a cell phone and take a selfie. Now she misses it the first time. Go and watch the fan cams, everybody. But she holds up an imaginary a cell phone, and takes an imaginary selfie. They all act it out because it's then she reaches down because she had to do another one and grabs the phone and then has to mess with it to turn it on.
Yeah. If you didn't notice, all the list of little nitpicky things that we're going to talk about that went wrong in this performance.
Not the girl. It was just how they did.
You wouldn't have known that something went wrong there. But again, the three of them are sitting. They're doing their part. Yeso is reaching down on the ground, like looking for something, and then brings her hand up, and then she mimes a phone.
Which I thought was a cute idea.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, it was just like pretending to take a selfie. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, well, then why was she shuffling around, reaching on the ground? No, because she was supposed to pick up an actual phone and do a real selfie. And if you watch in the fan cam version, she does look for it afterwards, pick up the phone, have to fiddle with it to get it to open, and then take a real selfie. Which was like so unnecessary.
Okay, but side note on that
so unnecessary.
I would murder for that selfie. People would
buy
buy that
to
for
post
100.
it.
I want them to see that. It might not have come out, but the point is.
But it was so unnecessary.
Now we're already on step.
We're only halfway there. We're only halfway there.
Like 6. This is like step 6 if you count. Give or take. But they say now, so there's a phone right there. You're going to slide in position. Mm-hmm. I have a cell phone that I had to eventually make sure the screen timeout was longer because I would keep it for breaks and stuff. Yeah. And they could have just set it down, had it on with the timeout being at 10 minutes, so she wouldn't have had to fiddle with it. This is also what I'm saying, the difference between newbies like Yeso, who's not really a newbie, but you can't knock her for this. It's just going to come with time and confidence. If that had been Hyolyn doing the cell phone thing and she missed it, she would have pantomimed the second one as well because she knows it's more consistent. I think
Hyolyn and her team would have known it's not worth it to have the real phone anyway. You just do pantomime and you get the drift, and then there's fewer things that can go wrong.
Right, but you're 30 seconds in the song and you're already setting up Yeso to be nervous about she's got to now think of the next step, and she's messing up this one. She didn't mess up, but you know what I mean. This is how you screw your team over. Okay, so next, Diane climbs a box.
Climbs up to the top of
ladder, box. I guess, whatever.
There was a ladder behind. But you can see it in fan cams.
Right, but you can also see that she kind of just has to get on all fours and climb it at one point. There's no graceful real way to do it. You got to kind of,
they come back and then she's up there. Yeah.
Right, but she's climbing it. Mm-hmm. And again, these are all things that the live audience can see you prepping for. You're taking away the magic. Right. That's why they got less live audience. She gets on there. Then she has to knock down the screen for Eugen to go through.
Right.
She knocks down the screen.
Yeah, that was
Then
fine.
they came up. They have to shouting and
I forget.
I think it was Mashira or somebody. They have to tear the screen off. So imagine just knocking the screen down could have messed up, could have fallen, and then Eugen just standing there.
There's so many potential points of failure.
And they're worried about it. And that's not having. You're not allowed to have a good time then. They tear down the screen. Then the big one comes out. Eugen comes in, stand in the middle of a pit of bubble juice. And the bubble thing, when we first saw it, was, that's really cute. When
I first saw the bubble thing, and they bring up the bubble around her, it is so cute, and it turned out on camera so well, and it was like, oh, that was adorable.
It could have fell completely on the bubble, but it worked.
And it was so, but when you watch it again, and you watch the full cam, and you see what happened afterwards, it's so frustrating that they did this to her. It was a setup. It was a setup from the beginning.
Well, you can't combine a dance shoot and a flat, glossy stage with bubble juice. It looked like it had two circles, like a donut shape. So it was a circle in the middle and then a circle on the outside where the liquid should have only been in the outside circle, and the inside circle where her feet were should have been dry. For obvious reasons. Or she should have stepped on something dry.
After to wipe her feet. But even still, that would have looked odd.
Why not have a summer beach towel or something? Just incorporate it.
The inside, just the way that was executed is just frustratingly amateur. because they set her up not only to like just mess up her dance moves, what she did, because the bottom of her feet were slippery with soap, of all things.
Yeah.
But also, like, she could have fallen. She could have gotten hurt or something. Just who in their right mind thought that was a good idea?
Well,
who thought that
Well, this is
was
what on
work?
the subreddit somebody said, Mihawk
Yeah,
choreographed.
Mihawk
And somebody
choreographed
said,
it.
oh, so he's the one to blame for putting bubbles on a stage. And I said, no, actually, Eugen brings it up when they're having their meeting. I like to do soap bubbles or something. Doesn't mean
There's
it was
nothing
anybody's
wrong with
fault.
the idea of the bubble. The way it was executed
cute.
was the problem.
Yeah.
They should have brought it out and then set a dry towel on top of the center portion. Two backup dancers lugged this wet thing over into
Carefully,
position,
like, quickly and carefully.
with the water going everywhere,
everywhere.
sloshing it. In that process, they should have had a towel and set that in the middle so her feet would be dry. It's infuriating for a couple of reasons. One, anyone in their right mind would have seen if she'd even practiced that once that way, that wasn't going to work. And I believe Eugen, with the years of experience and intelligence she has, and with how upset she was with how it went, would have said, "Oh no, my feet are wet. You have to do this differently."
They didn't get
if
to
they
run
would have
through
run
enough.
it through exactly like that with the water and everything, Eugen would have noticed this is a problem and they would have found a solution. It makes me believe they didn't actually run through with the bubble
Or
liquid,
not enough. It went fine the
because
first time, and
it makes no sense. Like, and on top of that, everyone's mad at Mihawk for choreographing. I thought it wasn't him. He said he also couldn't be there. He was sick with COVID.
Right. He would have.
He couldn't have been there. He wasn't there for rehearsals and for everything like that. I believe that he would have been intelligent enough to say, "No, we need to fix this as a problem. We can fix it."
Well, remember
there was a solution for that.
Also,
an easy solution.
the choreographer is not
right?
the guy who planned. They could take his choreography and cut it up.
It's so.
So he didn't necessarily place everybody. That's the crew and stuff. He's just the guy who makes the moves, and maybe they incorporated it differently.
It's so
Imagine that she steps out of the. Imagine she steps out of the box, right? Yeah. And who is over there? Let's say Mashiro or whoever holds up a big fan, like an electric fan, and then shouting takes a bubble thing, like just a hand one, and blows bubbles at Eugen, and she pretends to be like a model, like from like it would have been so cute, like this little moment.
They could have done
nothing
that.
on the floor,
right?
And this is why I believe this, and we'll talk about Hyolyn in a minute. Why she's doing okay is because she's in an environment where everybody can speak their mind. This is Kepler. This is what Eiswan went through. They weren't there to question and do it. They were there to do what they were told. And so I just don't think they were listening or took input. So and they didn't work through it enough.
With as shocked and surprised by the outcome of that as Eugen was, I'm telling you, I fully believe she didn't get a chance to practice it with the actual bubble stuff, because she would have said, it's obvious that it would get on her feet and she would be slipping around.
What could have happened?
Because on top of that, like if you watch the whole performance, you don't really notice it. But if you watch her fan cams, from that point on, she really is like almost
she's on
going
unsteady
to fall.
footing.
And she skips doing a bunch of dance moves because she couldn't stand up straight. The dance on the bar, she didn't quite do the way that you could tell the way that she was supposed to.
It made her look like she was missing the moves
because she was falling. Just and she was so upset and frustrated by it, and I'm just frustrated on her behalf. Well,
I think a lot of people might see the editing too and think
upset.
that Eugen wasn't concerned about Diane because
we haven't even got to Diane yet.
But what I'm saying is that she was in her own world. She thought she had completely screwed that up.
Yeah.
One person is to blame for any of this stuff.
No.
And it's not Kepler at all. They are doing what they're told because they're on a contract. And I'm just saying that they're also not Eugen, but maybe she's didn't want to say anything to upset everybody. Even if they ran through it.
The case.
I know,
that's
but even if they
you.
ran through it, the guys carrying it, it's not a live audience thing. They're not going to be so worried about it, and maybe they didn't slosh it the first time, and so it went okay. But the second time, they probably just grabbed it and hurried up. And,
I don't know.
And it was just like, you're putting like oil. Put oil on her foot and ask her to slide it. It's like being on ice. It was so dangerous. Absolutely.
It was so
dangerous.
frustrating.
And this is why I got mad the first performance is, again, putting your people into danger.
Yeah.
And which we'll talk about next. So you go back and they pull out some bar. Not only do they pull it out, but you can see Chan waiting.
She rides
obviously
on the
I thought she should have
bars.
been posed more casual. Like she wasn't just frozen in time. Not her fault again. she could have easily flipped backwards, banged her head.
Well, yeah.
Granted, she's...
It's not about talking about things that didn't go wrong.
No, but I'm saying that this is the kind of stuff that... this isn't the circus. This is K-pop. We don't have to have them on a tightrope.
Anyway, they bring out those bars and they do the bar dance.
Which went fine. It's great.
It went
Except
fine.
for Eugen had a problem.
Yeah. Shouting did a backflip on the bar. It was excellent.
Oh, of course. She looked great.
Again, frustrations. The lighting during that part of the bar dance,
yeah, you don't see
when
her.
she does the backflip, is dark on her, so you can't see
Should have
it.
had a spotlight.
She should have had a spotlight on her during that, so that you could really clearly see. You can't quite clearly see what she did, but she did a backflip. She executed it perfectly. It was wonderful. But just little things. Again, that are so aggravating.
This is gimmick number 12 or 13ish, give or take, and then they go out to the middle section and they're dancing. Now, in the middle section, you could picture it. If you watch the cam, let's say it was probably 5 foot wide, 6 foot wide, maybe 6 of these squares.
Yeah.
That's fine if the front row was in the middle of the section. So Diane on the back row was right near the back. Everybody should have scooted
there
up
was
about a foot.
That thin platform, and most teams when they went to that thin platform, they had their members in one row. With Kepler, they had them in 2 rows. So the girls that were in the front row had positioned themselves towards the center of the stage.
Yes.
They should have positioned themselves more forward.
More of a foot.
Because the girls in the back row
were literally
had no room.
No clearance.
And that is why Cheyenne fell.
Yeah, watch Cheyenne's
And Diane fell entirely off the stage.
Yeah, Cheyenne almost falls and holds it, but close.
Barely.
Not only does Diane fall off the stage, but then she almost knocks Shouting backwards.
Yes.
So
Diane takes a step backward because they're so close to the edge of the stage because they didn't position themselves with enough room, and she couldn't see. A leg goes off, and her
rump goes right into a
fan.
And imagine being the fan. You're like, oh, what
and
do
the
I
fans
do? I can't
didn't know what to do. They were because
COVID, I can't touch it.
Their backs were to her, so they, the fans. That was also awkward because they weren't turned around to see what was happening behind them because you'd be looking at somebody's butts. And so she bumped into them, and then she just crawled back up onto the stage and got back into position right in time to where if you weren't paying really close, you wouldn't even have known.
Well, we didn't notice it at first.
Her recovery for this was just
of course, no, Diane.
Spider-Man reflex.
But it's but the recovery,
she was amazing.
Her recovery to me represented everything about this stage.
Respect.
They were constantly on edge. They were constantly nervous about screwing something up because again, they did that game where you flip the cup. Now
too much stuff going on.
And then the thing is a couple of them misses their marks in the game, and you can't reset it in an idol show. So you just keep grinding through it. The song was cute. The dance was cute. I liked her idea, but it. Now, granted, if I had seen just the performance, would I have thought I've felt that? I don't know, but to me, they just appear they're constantly doing these parts now in a lot of the Idols songs where they stop and they go, everybody clap your hand, and they have a little casual improv moment where everybody clap your hand and hey, hands in the air, that kind of stuff, which is totally cute. But when they were doing it, it just looked like they were just pantomime. There was no real. There was fear there. They were having a hard time.
If you watch those things, I know we're harping on this and we're being really harsh, and that is not my intention.
It's not on Kepler's. It's not Kepler.
But if you watch the fan cam, they're doing so much in this 3 minutes. They've got them just doing so many things, and it was you could have taken out 2 or 3 of these gimmicks, given them more space to execute the few little tricks that they had really well. In comparison. Flip. Yeah, right. Shouting Slips was the only gimmick you needed, and it would have been amazing.
For a section, yeah.
In comparison to Luna, had fewer tricks. They had only 4 maybe tricks.
Right,
but they were each one was executed really well.
But you're also forgetting
and timed really well.
Yeah,
and they weren't awkwardly hovering at any point in time.
But Luna is also much more experienced and is known for their.
I know.
So
I know.
Not only
but
that,
I'm just saying, in comparison,
right?
Luna did a stage that had a lot of air quote, tricks and gimmicks too, but there were still way fewer of them, and they executed them all really well.
They looked much more relaxed.
Versus Kepler had too many,
14,
and it came off a little bit messy, and
it caused somebody to get hurt.
Caused almost people getting hurt,
literally hurt,
and that's just frustrating. I'm just frustrated.
This is what I said.
I love.
This is
Kepler,
what I do too.
I'm just.
This is what I said on their first performance.
It's okay.
Is that you're asking the one of my problems with I love these kind of shows. I like Kingdom, Road to Kingdom, all stuff, but I did not enjoy when it started to become more about those tricks and less about literally a song and singing.
Yeah, and Kingdom did that too. I feel like it got to be more about the gimmicks
which is fun
than the dance or the performance. And there were performances on that show that I enjoyed less because of that reason.
Right, I mean, it's kind of like
similarly.
I love gymnastics and the Olympics. I absolutely love them, but I tend to enjoy the bars the most because it is one flowing song from moved, and it is crazy to get that down. The floor exercise is really great, but there's a moment where you have to set up and start running, and it kind of ruins the rhythm a bit. Not saying it, but and so I think that they just had. This is not Kepler doing this. This is the production crew. There's too many cooks in this kitchen. They should have. This is what I said in the first performance review of theirs. Like you said, pull back, give them less things, let them feel a little more relaxed, and show their actual bright, bubbly,
It was like,
fun.
compared to the first stage that they didn't have like any props, and it was like they didn't do enough. Yeah. They overcorrected.
Went over the other way.
But anyway, we're picking on Kepler because we love him.
No,
we're
not picking on Kepler. We're picking on the decisions
Kepler's
that were made because they worked their tails off. But when you watch it individually, you see that.
And you made me have to watch Hikaru cry. Listen, production team.
Yeah, when she cries, it's always sad.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, how she talks, like she goes
because she was like keeping it strong. And
when I like that her words were it's aggravating, it's frustrating. It wasn't at Eugen. It was just
just the situation.
Those were the words that came out. Those aren't maybe she would have been more succinct in Japanese or something. But she was she's a kid. She's a kid. She's a young girl. And when she got upset, I was like,
they were right to be frustrated because they did work hard and then things went wrong that weren't their fault, and that's just.
Just a last point about this. The reason I've always gotten angry when I'm seeing more more gymnastics in K-pop. They're not gymnasts. Is if you have a dinner table, picture yourself standing on that dinner table and then doing a badass dance. But imagine letting yourself fall off that dinner table. Not onto a carpeted floor, by the way. Maybe onto a chair or onto a hard floor. Or the worst thing we heard over the last is Wendy from Red Velvet. Accident.
I feel like we all have like a slight bit of collective like trauma from having that happen to Wendy. Like there have been other situations too, but Wendy is the one that like that was right when I became
she had to take
K-pop
off
fan.
a year and a half or something.
And just even thinking about what happened to her is just like really upsetting. So like I don't want to see like
that's what I'm saying is every time. And now granted, I'm getting older and stuff. I worry about kids. Like careful on that bicycle. That's how you get. Because I was a dumb kid. I did a lot of old stunts and I could have hurt myself a million times. Yeah. But it's completely unnecessary. It's getting away from what Kepler is. Kepler's good because they're a ragtag bunch that came together. They're starting to really mold together as a group. There's personalities that are coming out. And sorry, but you got to do a trapeze act now. But we're not trapeze artists. We're like, well, we know, but don't fall. And it's like
the moral of this story is what we said whenever we did our initial videos about who was even going to be on Queendom, that as much as we adore Kepler, we didn't want them to be on Queendom. At the end of the day, like watching how upset they were, watching them almost get hurt, I would have rather have just them not been on the show, and we would have gotten a comeback by now, and we would have gotten maybe a mini album. We've had more than 2 songs. Like
I agree, but if they were doing it really well and killing it right now, we probably would have been like, hey, it's a good idea. It's just it didn't work out that way, but I'm just saying that in the end, I think they'll be fine. They still have a lot of contract left. They're still stars.
We need to move on.
So yeah, good luck to them. But that was next time we're not doing this craziness because we're doing a group thing.
And then in the end, we have the exact opposite. We have Hyolyn doing "So What" and "Paint the Town" remix from Luna. She descends from the rafters like Catwoman on a circle ring thing. With no supports or anything, and then comes down and then just dances for the rest of the song with no other props no other anything, and slays, like absolutely slays.
Yeah. Well, this is what is amazing to me, is that I wrote down all the gimmicks that she did, and she did one. She's one. Now it's dangerous as hell. It wasn't something she had done a ton before. She had done it.
Well, they showed her in the practice.
She said it had been a while.
It had been. She's done it before in performances.
Yeah.
There's like.
Yeah, I know, but
But it had been a while since she's done it.
And she's doing it wearing a literal skin tight suit
and stilettos.
And stilettos. And so that's her one gimmick, though. And what she did the same thing in her first performance. She won that one handedly. She came out. She had a little thing of sparkling champagne. You know, nothing real gimmicky. She came out. This is what Mamamoo did, and they won. And how do the rest of the crews, not necessarily WJSN stuff because they can pull off, but how's the Kepler people in thinking? Well, you know what we need is way more than she's like. Let's just make it more complicated. Surely that's why Hyolyn's winning, is because it's super complicated. It's like no. She comes out. To me,
and also, I think it's by necessity that she doesn't have like a million gimmicks the way Kepler does, because she's a solo artist.
She couldn't run all over the stage.
She can't be
in all places
off doing something or prepping for a. She has to be performing the whole time. So that makes her performances super cohesive.
Yeah, exactly.
And the energy stays up throughout the whole thing because she's the center of the attention throughout the whole time. And isn't off,
right, but
prepping for something or doing something behind the scenes or whatever.
But the point is that no matter what she's doing, whatever her formula is, I don't care if she did 100,000 things, whatever. The proof is in the pudding. She's won first and second now. Yeah. She's won both times.
People love
handedly,
it.
Handedly.
Love it.
It's not my favorite because it sounds to me like, I want to say North American, kind of, it sounds like music I hear over here all the time, so I'm not blown away
Western
by it.
pop.
Over there, it definitely sounds like something different. But she puts on a show. She just has it. She looks like she's having fun. And then you see the behind the scenes stuff, and she's laughing.
I love her so much. Like,
and this,
I love her. Is this what they mean by girl crush? Because I have a massive crush on Hyolyn right now.
I think the thing is,
I love her. So, like, all the behind the scenes stuff, her working with her team, her, like, she's doing this Catwoman thing and she's so cool and badass. But when she's practicing, she's just, like, really goofy and funny and, like, having a struggle.
There's a relaxation there.
She's confident in what she's doing. I thought, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Luna's heavy, noisy songs.
Yeah.
That includes So What and Paint the Town. The way in which she remixed them together and then sang them like in this bluesy, soulful, powerful style that Hyolyn sings. Dude, you like. But it wasn't even. You got me. You got me.
She does it. Even the remix. Love it. Even the remix was not insane. Like all over the place.
Good.
It was very not. I don't want to say simple. None of this is simple. But I'm saying that she's not overcomplicating things. And I do believe because of the way she is with her backup dancers in a production company. She also, by the way, I think as an artist, she's showing a little drawing stuff. I'm like, what can she not do? But there's a relaxed atmosphere. So if there's not just a yes man going, hey, it was perfect. Do the hoop 1,000. There's people who may be saying that looks a little loose. That looks a little. Let's not do that. She's probably got an open. Everybody can throw in an idea. Now she's very in charge, and I bet she's way more nervous than she appears. And she's probably terrified of being the soloist. But when you compare it to Queendom 1 with Park, who we love to death, there was a bit of a, like I said earlier, there was a bit of a sadder note with Park Bomb. She had a little bit of a hard time, and I feel bad for her.
She was self-conscious a lot.
Very self-conscious. Yeah. But Hyolyn
isn't.
Is like,
I love her.
And compared to all the idols.
That level of confidence and skill and like everything. Wow.
But you know what? What I like about it is
never.
It's not a cockiness. It's none of that.
No.
It's almost what makes it a person like that seem relaxed is because she's going, I mean, let's do what I got to do.
It's not the end of the world.
I think she's going to end up picking up tons of fans because supposedly she's not as big in Korea.
Right.
I mean, she could easily come out with a comeback and do. We're now interested in her, and we'd heard her before, but I didn't know her from really anybody. And now I'm like, hey, I like this person.
Love her.
And there's a whole treasure trove of idols like her who have kind of had a career and they're still capable, but maybe the audience doesn't give them a chance, and it's good to see her on there. So I thought she did great. I don't think it's number one again, but again, this is degrees of difference
Tiny
here.
degrees.
Tiny
okay,
degrees.
Are you ready to move on from this one?
Yeah.
She was amazing. I love it.
I love her.
They did the voting again internally for who did better or worse. The only group that voted that someone had done better than them was WJSN, who gave it to Hyolyn out of respect. Everyone else said no one did better than me, and then they voted for these as the ones who did worse. It was again an awkward, uncomfortable situation throughout all of it, and like some of them, they're saying, it was because the performance wasn't impactful or whatever, and like WJSN, like picking Luna as below them. Because and
I was just like, a strategical thing.
Listen,
it wasn't. They
Exy,
didn't mean that.
You're lying through your teeth to me right now. You picked Luna lower than you because as a strategic move, because so they wouldn't.
Everybody knows that. They were joking around after the show. Somebody said on social media or whatever. There's no hate between these people.
No,
it is a bit of a strategy. It's a bit of a wink also at the system. So picking though Hyolyn is better than you is brilliant because it makes you seem like you have a little. You are a little bit humble and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and they knew she would get it anyway.
Right.
There's just no. It's a bit goofy. It's a little hit and miss here. It causes some drama, but mostly the drama is just kind of like cringy uncomfortableness. Like, that you can tell they're not having a good time.
They have a really hard time expressing it and trying to come up with like, here, what's the reason or whatever. And part of me just wishes they would just say like, I'm sorry, we had to pick someone. We picked you because
yes.
And just to be like, I'm sorry, please don't take this personally. You did a really good job.
Everybody knows that.
And they're not really saying that.
Everybody knows that. What I wish they would actually do is what a few of them have occasionally done now is say, no, it didn't seem that interesting to me. I thought this one was better. It didn't stick out. Because there is, it's kind of neat to see artists criticize other artists. The other artists should know. It's not anything personal. They do know that. It's just hard to hear it and everybody's really sensitive. And
VIVIZ were happy that no one picked them this time. That was funny.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, why do this? It's not really necessary.
So the ranking ended up being as thus, based off of the online Zoom audience, air quote global audience, the in-person audience, and the in-person audience special guests, which were former members that had been on Queendom and Kingdom before. Hyolyn first place, Luna second, WGSN third, VIVIZ, Kepler, and Brave Girls last, which just hurts my feelings.
Well, how do you think they feel?
Like, that's not deserved.
No, it wasn't. Somebody has to be last. I didn't think it should be anybody, but if it had to be, I would have said Kepler just because it wasn't because they messed up, because a lot of people didn't notice it, but it just felt a little uptight to me. They weren't very relaxed. That is me saying that, knowing what I know now and seeing what I've seen. Brave Girls, I think, just don't get a lot of in-person voting because they're younger people. Maybe they don't like Brave Girls.
The sample size of people who are doing the voting to determine this rank is so small, everyone.
It's a few hundred people.
It is that tiny audience that's there. It's a tiny Zoom audience. Everyone that comes into it comes in with a bias because they're there to see their favorite group.
Yeah.
And let's be real. Brave Girls' mainstream popularity fans are not coming to be in the audience at Queendom.
Right.
So Brave Girls fans are not getting online to watch the Zoom call. That doesn't mean that they don't have fans. It doesn't mean that they did poorly, because they definitely didn't do poorly.
No.
They didn't. Nobody did poorly.
No.
Like, Kepler had accidents, but that wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
And Brave Girls certainly didn't perform poorly. They had a song that no one knows. Like, no one knows Mask. It's the sidetrack of a group that debuted a month earlier that people barely even know their main track. So they don't know the song Mask. We know the song Mask. Yeah. I love that song because we love Kepler. So
it sounded like
putting them at the bottom, they just had so many things stacked against them to make them always be at the bottom. I just don't want them to be at the bottom twice and to be removed from the show. That would be a tragedy.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I don't know if that's going to happen, but this next one is
moving on. These are our rankings,
right? But the next one is going to be a vocal unit and stuff like that, and people are predicting, well, this will give extra points back to Brave Girls because they can sing so well. But yeah, I mean, Luna obviously number one because you put them above. I didn't know you put them up. I thought you put Hyolyn as number one.
No,
okay.
Luna's number one. I'm a musical theater nerd. They executed a musical theater concept in the most delightful fashion.
Yeah.
You win for me.
Yeah, VIVIZ for me for number three because I think, although they didn't do anything that was... I thought Brave Girls was a more unique take on what they did. There was a fresher take.
I liked Brave Girls' theme. I liked their jazzy reproduction of the song.
Yeah.
I love the money coming down from the ceiling was really fun. It was just a delightful little performance. Just for me, I liked the theme of that better. But
honestly, you could the bottom four you could almost switch out, except for.
And for me, I put Kepler above WJSN just for me because I've watched Kepler's performance and wanted to watch it over and over, and it is so fun. It did bring me so much joy. Whereas WJSN, I haven't felt the desire to watch it over and over or anything. but just because of like taking a bright, fun song or bright, youthful G-Friend song and making it dark and mature, just for me, on my personal taste, isn't what I prefer.
No, and it felt a bit expected to me. Also, for me, I love Debbie Gibson a lot. I love Exie. I think her rap
They
fell
executed their
off
performance better than Kepler executed their performance. Like, it's hard for me to put them at the bottom, but I just say, like, since this is only my opinion, I prefer something bright and lively and theatrical to something dark and
that was the
mysterious.
theme of this, the second half of this too. But again, it's easier to say that the only thing I'm 100% sure on was like number 1 and 2 and maybe 3. The rest of them could. There's little, it's hard.
Yeah. There's the fan voting for the fans' choice. It's between the 22nd and 25th of April. Please go vote. I voted for Luna and Brave Girls. Luna because they were literally my first choice. Yeah. Brave Girls because I don't want them to leave the show.
I think I did Luna Brave Girls as well. Yeah, I'm not worried about Kepler. Even if they got kicked off the show, I'm not worried about them. They have a huge
the only teams that have been in the bottom thus far have been Luna because of By Default and Brave Girls because of this round.
Yeah.
So we don't want either of them to leave.
Well, we don't know how it works. Like on the second one, if they get the votes, it would be at the end of the show anyway. So they just wouldn't appear in the final, which I think is a complete and total stupid waste. Nobody wants to not.
I'm going to be furious.
All these 6 groups need to be on the list. Okay.
Just really briefly, for next episode is round 3, in which we're going to have a vocal unit and a dance unit. I'm pretty disappointed there's not a rap unit.
I don't understand why.
But
I think they think the women can't rap or something.
Not every group there has a rapper to represent them, so
you could completely work around. I mean, you could totally.
But we don't know who all the representatives are. We've seen some of them.
I mean, I guess it's true with VIVIZ especially, but it's just like I don't know. It would just been fun to see a rap subunit. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll still see some of that because they're going to have these 2 teams go off. You can watch the video, and we didn't list all the people who's in what, but you can
because we haven't seen them all.
Yeah, but who it's who
from
you'd
Kepler,
expect.
We saw Chaeyoung and Youngoon are doing vocal representative, and Hikaru shouting and Dahyun are doing dance representative.
Which they're going to murder.
Cool. They're going to murder.
So that'll be a good chance for them to redeem themselves. But I forgot to say that when they go off and do their little side project. This is what happened in Queendom 1. What are all the rest of the girls doing? And what they're going to be doing is probably a fun day or something that has some point available. Not much, but it's just more for fun. Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to it. That's one of my favorite parts is the collab. Our Reddit discussion of the day. We've been doing these because they're fun.
And it's free content. Thank you.
This time, Beau asked everyone if they've ever fallen for evil editing. And my contribution to this discussion has been thus far on Queendom. There really hasn't been much. The only attempts at it is with Simbi, but she pushed back on it and
immediately knew it
flipped the script.
Oh, she messed with it.
The thing is,
Mnet doesn't mind that she flipped it because they still got a meme out of it, still got clicks out of it. Yeah. That's all they want.
Yeah,
it's their business. Okay, so I asked this. I got 37 responses. There's so many good responses, but a lot that were
it says 66 comments.
Oh, well, even more than I guess. Yeah, I thought it was 37. A lot of them were long, so I'm going to leave those because I couldn't. So I'm just picked out 5 as usual.
Okay.
There were so many good ones. I kind of just had to grab some that I just remember reading. So user Aiko Kanazaki, Aikokanzaki, said, I fell for it the first time I watched a produced series, but by the time we got GP999 and now with Queendom 2, none of it gets to me now. I just assume everything, and I mean everything, in K-pop is scripted and edited, so nothing affects me now. I just enjoy. Now, that sounds a little harsh. I don't think they mean that everybody's fake or whatever, but K-pop has a veneer of perfection. They run a filter over everything, what they say.
I think that sort of thing is way worse in, like, Girls Planet. I certainly was guilty of it and feel bad about it.
You fell for the Eugen thing.
I had pretty bad first impression from.
We have to go back and listen. I was like, honey, this is not. She was not being
me. I know. I'm embarrassed.
It's cute. It means you care.
I'm embarrassed.
No,
but I have fallen for it before, but not here.
I agree with what they're saying though. Is you kind of just take everything from K-pop with a grain of salt. Yeah. They're really, and then that's fine. They're like a movie.
I've fallen for it before, but never again.
Yeah, I believe that. Next user Cookie Cat Supreme, which is cute. Honestly, weirdly, I don't fall for evil edits, but sometimes a contestant will say something that makes my eyes narrow, like, "Huh, that's a little mean," and I'm surprised it isn't evil edited.
Right.
I've seen that. I think noticing who Mnet chooses to edit and what they'll let fly has made me not fall for evil or angel edits. Angel edits being where they try to, like Bora, they did Bora, who was an angel though, so it doesn't matter.
With Queendom, as we've mentioned, like some of these reasons for people picking the group below them, you're just kind of side-eyeing going, and this is a strategic choice.
Well, everybody knows it.
You're playing the game.
But I see what they're saying, that sometimes they'll say something, you'd be like, wait, they just plainly said that. It's rare, but they're human. Sometimes they say stuff that's a little mean. User Starry QQ says the guilt. This one, and somebody said in the response to this comment how old this made me feel. The guilt of 12-year-old me falling for the evil editing of Ju Hankian. I'm sorry, I mispronounced it. Yeah. When I watched Produce 101 season 2 in early 2019. So this person was 12 and 3 years ago.
Let's not talk about it.
It's cute. It's remembered by a 16-year-old me. Luckily, I did manage to come across a video on YouTube debunking the evil edit right away, right after I watched the evil edit, so I felt sorry. I never felt for evil edits again. I put in response to that, I'm glad you learned from it, because that shows a lot of wisdom at that.
A lot of maturity,
A lot, yeah.
And if you don't know the history, I won't get into the history of all that. I couldn't even... I watched Produce the 101 season way after the fact.
Girl group?
No, 101, the boy group.
Oh, right, sorry.
And I had to stop. I was going to watch all of it. I love Kong Daniel. I liked 101, but I didn't really know anything about it until we're a newer K-pop fan. I wasn't a fan in 2017. Yeah. I had to stop watching it because the evil editing and the way they were treating some of the contestants on it was so distasteful.
Were they contestants from another country?
No.
Oh, boy.
And it was really distasteful. I had to stop watching. So
it's hard.
Him and Becco from New East. I was just, and I'm a Becco fan, so it was. Really,
I think it's a bit of an unsustainable. I mean, they still get their clicks, but I think in the end, it's a bit unsustainable. Makes people uncomfortable. And speaking of that, Violet Cherry says, user Violet Cherry. To be honest, coming from someone who watches Western reality TV all the time, Western reality TV, all the evil editing in Korean shows seems much more tame in comparison and more obvious. 100,000%. That's why when somebody says I watch Western reality shows, I'm like, how?
I couldn't do it. I can't stomach it.
And I responded to that by saying, yeah, it's funny how they always, from the beginning, there's a person who will say, I'm going to be the beep of the season. Yeah. I'm the, they already know the formula and they're already claiming.
I don't like that kind of stuff.
And they get in physical fights.
I don't like it.
I'm too old for that. Prudenthea, Prudenthyaana. I'm sorry. They say, I definitely agree. Sometime after, I'm sorry, they might have been responding to a comment. But anyway, sometime after Produce 48, I began rewatching the series and was bemused to discover that all the people who had positive screen time in the first 2 episodes were in the last few episodes, top 20. And many had become my favorites before the halfway point. The second time through, you can definitely see the favoritism better. Some angel edits were so egregious. I can't forget that word.
Egregious.
I don't know. I knew that word. That I disliked the girls getting them. Given that some of the girls pushed the hardest kept falling in the ranking, I think the kind of extreme push is obvious and counterproductive. Maybe it's not fair to them, but they definitely benefited from a bias system and at some point had to be aware of that. But this is the important part of their comment. As for devil edits, the biggest and most subtle one is cutting screen time. Yep. It's, to me, the most powerful tool you have. Because with an evil edited person, maybe you go, I feel bad for them, so I'm going to vote for them because they're evil edited. Or you go, I don't like them. But then they get a turnaround story and they become nice. Yeah. You're like, now they learned and they're, being ignored. This is why I said about Brave Girls, is what really hurts is kind of being just passed by. That I don't think they think this because they have some money and they know that it's real stuff. But you don't want Brave Girls thinking we were just a meme group. That's what I'm saying. That's the only hurtful there is that when it gets down to it, people are just kind of ignoring them. But I think the global votes will come in later on that. But I agree. The cutting screen time is just is almost worse because in GP there were so many girls they kind of had to do it, but there were girls they got no time literally at all, and they were so good. Yeah. So thanks for all the comments, guys. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome discussion. And that's it for today's episode. We do these recaps every Saturday, so please subscribe to my channel so you can hear our next recap for episode 5.
Yeah.
It'll be the beginning of the subunit rounds.
Maybe fun stuff now.
And I am looking forward to it
Yeah.
because it's some of my favorite stuff.
Like maybe there'll be some sad stuff because they told us the story about their favorite grandpa or something like that. But it'll be
when they pick their
heartwarming.
partners and stuff, that whole thing.
Yeah, they go into a room. Oh, that's gonna be so funny.
It's
The,
gonna be
the first
cute.
Queendom, if you haven't watched it, it's really cute how they pick each other.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to hang out with. I think it was Hwasa.
Wassa. She was like, "Oh my God,
it was
y'all
really
girls!" But yeah,
Anyway,
it was
go
good.
vote. Make sure you vote because we don't quite know yet how the votes count or do.
It counts in the end.
in the end, so maybe we can swing it one way or the other. Go vote for whoever you want to vote for, though.
Vote for Brave Girls, please don't.
Yeah, do Brave Girls.
Okay, bye
Bye.
everybody.